Welcome to the Bogosity Podcast for the 6th of May 2013, the podcast that never rains but it pours. This is your host, Shane Killian. Let's exfoliate the news of the bogus. And we start with more bogosity in the WikiLeaks Julian Assange Bradley Manning fiasco. The military judge in Manning's case has said that prosecutors can use evidence that al-Qaida obtained the information from Manning as aiding the enemy, one of only two things that can get you charged with treason according to the Constitution. Understand, they're not even trying to claim that Manning gave the information to al-Qaida directly. They're not even trying to claim that Manning gave them to WikiLeaks and WikiLeaks gave them to al-Qaida. Their claim is this: Manning gave the information to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks published that information on the internet after redacting certain information, like the names of U.S. operatives acting abroad who might be put at risk by the document's release. And then al-Qaida got the information on the internet just like everyone else did. Al-Qaida got the same redacted information and they accessed it the same way. In other words, according to the prosecutor, simply putting something on the internet counts as it being passed on to the enemy. Unbelievable. The judge also said that circumstantial evidence was sufficient to establish this. Say what? Really, all the judge said is necessary to prove Manning's guilt is to show that al-Qaida ended up with these documents somehow. Folks, this is a major blow to the First Amendment. If the government can use circumstantial evidence to avoid having to show a chain of causality directly connecting one person to a criminal outcome, then any whistleblower is fair game. And it would make any future whistleblowers more reluctant to come forward and expose our government's unconstitutional war crimes. Of course, that's probably what they're counting on. Hey, you know that gay conversion therapy stuff? You know, the one that purports to help people stop being gay? The one repudiated by psychologists for years? The one that doesn't work? Well, guess what? It doesn't work. Oh, wait, I just said that. But now, as if we needed any more reason to cast this bogosity onto the rubbish heap, John Polk, the man who is practically the poster boy for the ex-gay movement, is, get this, still gay. It's a brave move, considering he made the cover of Newsweek in 1998 saying that gay conversion therapy worked, and has published 2 books on his remarkable conversion. But now, he's issued an apology. Quote, "Today, I do not consider myself ex-gay, and I no longer support or promote the movement. Please allow me to be clear. I do not believe that reparative therapy changes sexual orientation. In fact, it does great harm to many people. I know that countless people were harmed by things I said and did in the past. Parents, families, and their loved ones were negatively impacted by the notion of reparative therapy and the message of change. I am truly, truly sorry for the pain I have caused. From the bottom of my heart, I wish I could take back my words and actions that caused anger, depression, guilt, and hopelessness. There are still accounts of my ex-gay testimony out there being publicized by various groups, including 2 books that I wrote about my journey. I don't get any royalties from these publications, and haven't since I left the ministry nearly 10 years ago. I discourage anyone from purchasing and selling these books or promoting my ex-gay story because they do not reflect who I am now or what I believe today." It's a good start. Here's hoping he keeps going and uses his status to go around the country giving talks correcting this hurtful and hateful nonsense that he's helped perpetuate all these years. It'll be impossible for him to reverse the damage he's caused, but maybe he can at least help hasten the day when people look back on this and go, "Really? They actually believed that?" Bogosity.tv and all of its services are hosted at GoDaddy.com. I've been a satisfied GoDaddy customer for over 10 years now. Their prices are great, and their 24/7 support is second to none, so I'm happy to be able to give you this special offer. Just sign up for any new domain, web hosting, email, or many other services and get 20% off by typing in the code WOWNOBOGON. That's WOWNOBOGON. Because there's nothing bogus about these savings on quality internet service. Get your own .com with a personalized email address, or establish your online business in a snap, all for 20% off. And if you buy before May 31st, 2013, you'll get a whopping 35% off your order, and you'll help this podcast too. Just go to GoDaddy.com and use the code WowNoBogon. This podcast has covered many reasons why gun control is a failure, including the ease at which criminals can get guns on the black market, including quality guns made in huts with basic machinist tools. But at least there was some barrier. I mean, it's not like you could download a gun from the internet and print a functioning gun from your computer. Until now. An Austin, Texas company called Defense Distributed has been designing and printing components for weapons for almost a year now. It's basically a wiki for 3D gun component designs. Last month it was granted a Type 7 federal firearms license, which enables them to manufacture and distribute lowers, basically the body of the firearm. But now they've gone beyond that and created an entire weapon, which they call the Liberator. It's an actual gun that fires real bullets, and even has interchangeable barrels to fire different caliber rounds. There are only two components of this firearm that are metal and cannot be printed: a nail, which serves as the firing pin, and a 6-ounce steel slug, which does not contribute to the functioning of the weapon, but is there so the weapon can be picked up by metal detectors, making it legal under the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1998. What's to stop someone from removing the slug or just making one without it is a mystery. Although one would think the bullets might still set it off. Well, guess what? At least one congressman is already trying to make it illegal. Steve Israel, a Democrat from New York, man, when those two things come together, you know it can't be good, wants to make it illegal to make a weapon at home that won't set off a metal detector or look like a gun in an X-ray machine. Yeah, make it illegal. That's bound to stop those criminals and terrorists right in their tracks. When will they learn? Of course, for the moment, this ability is limited to people who can shell out tens of thousands of dollars for a 3D printer. But like all new technology, the price will drop over time, and the longer government works to try to take our rights away, the more difficult it will be for them to do so. The internet has pretty much eliminated their ability to violate the First Amendment. Now it's working on the second. Here's to seeing how this trend continues in the coming years. And now it's time to overturn the appeal of this week's biggest Bogon emitter. Boy, I sure am glad that Barack Obama got elected instead of Mitt Romney. Why, we all know that Romney, being a Republican, is a woman-hater who would have denied all women of childbearing age access to contraceptives such as the morning after pill. But with Obama in the White House, we can rest assured that Obama will not restrict any of them from getting contraceptives. Oh yeah? Obama's Justice Department just appealed a judge's order that over-the-counter access to morning after pills should be available to women of all ages. Yep, Mr. Obama wants this only available by prescription. Of course, that should come as no surprise. He said this was his position during the last election. Earlier, it had been blocked by Secretary of Health and Human Services Kathleen Sebelius, who said that there wasn't enough data to prove that it was safe for children. What a load of BS. It's been used safely by teenage girls for many, many years now, and its safety is every bit as confirmed, or even more so, than many other drugs on the market. The move was praised by Obama himself in the election when he said, quote, "A 10-year-old or an 11-year-old going into a drugstore should not be able, alongside bubblegum or batteries, be able to buy a medication that potentially, if not used properly, can end up having an adverse effect. And I think most parents would probably feel the same way." Well, as a parent of an 11-year-old daughter, speak for yourself, Barry! This has come under fire from professionals. For example, Planned Parenthood Federation of America President Cecile Richards has said, quote, "Age barriers to emergency contraception are not supported by science, and they should be eliminated." After hearing a lot of complaints like this from many sectors, Obama and Sebelius retracted a little, saying that they'd be willing to lower the age to 15. Gee, thanks, Uncle Barry. Of course, that does nothing to help younger girls, including ones who may be victims of abuse and incest, who have nowhere else to turn and just want to make sure they don't get pregnant as a result. What's their excuse for continuing to restrict this? Make sure you're not drinking anything when you hear this, or there'll be a spit take a-comin'. Sebelius claims that this ruling was beyond the judge's authority. Yeah, right! Not only is the Obama administration the last people who can complain about others overstepping their authority, the executive office doesn't even have the power to make this restriction in the first place, and that automatically gives any federal judge the power to strike it down. Yes, this president, who constantly oversteps his authority, ignores Congress, violates the Constitution, passes what he wants by executive order instead of the legislative process, and has constantly ignored and defied the courts, and even goes so far as to whine on national TV when his blatantly unconstitutional legislation gets stopped in Congress, is in no position to whine yet again about a judge stopping yet more of his unjustified intrusions into personal liberty. And it's the fact that he and those in his administration do just that that once again earns him the title of this week's biggest Bogon emitter. History is written by the winners, and so apparently is economics. That's why there's Liberty Classroom. Probably the best single learning resource for history and economics on the web, Liberty Classroom teaches U.S. history, Western Civ, and economics from actual university professors. There's lots of free material to get you started, including introductory lectures on all these subjects. And when you sign up, you'll get the full site's content for just $99 a year, less than the price of 2 cups of coffee a month. And if you type in the promo code Bogosity in all caps, you'll get your first year for just $88. Lectures are available in both video and audio format, so you can watch or listen to them on your computer, your phone or tablet, or in your car. Learn at your own pace about the subjects you're interested in and become a more effective debater. You'll also get access to lots of supplemental materials and even the professors themselves via the discussion forum and even live video chats. Inform yourself against the myths and propaganda of our society. Visit libertyclassroom.com. And now it's time to pressurize this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! I have no idea what it is about Florida. Is it the heat? The humidity? Some weird pathogen being transmitted by mosquitoes? Whatever it is, Florida has certainly provided a lot of fodder for this podcast, and it just seems to get dumber and dumber. Now, 16-year-old Kira Wilmot was expelled from school and taken away in handcuffs because of, get this, a harmless science experiment. Before this incident, Wilmot got good grades and was a model student. Before school one Monday morning, she mixed some toilet bowl cleaner with aluminum foil and a small water bottle. According to a lot of the reports, the chemicals exploded, but really, they just popped the top of the bottle. No one was hurt. Her principal, Ron Pritchard, tried to take her side, but in the process, exposed everything that's wrong with schools in America today. Quote, "She made a bad choice. Honestly, I don't think she meant to ever hurt anyone. She wanted to see what would happen, and was shocked by what it did. Her mother is shocked, too." No, Pritchard, she did not make a bad choice. Experimenting to see what happened is a good thing and should be encouraged. So Wilmot was taken into custody by a school resources officer and charged with possession and discharge of a weapon and discharging a destructive device. She was then taken to a juvenile detention center. They're also going to try her as an adult. Wow, could they possibly be any more paranoid? Here's the official statement from Polk County School. Quote, "Anytime a student makes a bad choice, it is disappointing to us. Unfortunately, the incident that occurred at Bartow High School yesterday was a serious breach of conduct. In order to maintain a safe and orderly learning environment, we simply must uphold our code of conduct rules. We urge our parents to join us, conveying the message that there are consequences to actions. We will not compromise the safety and security of our students and staff." Wow. Okay, let's talk about what actually happened. Toilet cleaner is about 20% either hydrochloric acid or sodium hydroxide, and when either of them are mixed with aluminum foil, the reaction creates hydrogen gas. The pressure increases until the weak point of failure, in this case the pop top in the water bottle, gives. The only real danger with this experiment is that hydrogen gas is flammable, so just don't go near it with a match. Also, don't get the toilet cleaner on your skin. But the hydrogen gas will react with the oxygen in the air and make water vapor. With minimal safety precautions, this is actually a pretty safe experiment. An even safer version is to use warm water and sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. This makes a reaction that produces CO2, so it's not flammable, but it does make a good amount of pressure. When I was a kid, we'd make the pop tops on plastic film canisters blow off that way. In the age of digital photography, a pop top on a water bottle works fine. You could even turn it upside down into a tumbler and make it into a small rocket. Add liquid detergent if you want a bigger reaction. It makes a mess, but the mess is just soapy water, so it's easy to clean up. Just do it outside. Wilmot did her experiment outside, by the way. And most members of her community, as well as the scientific community, have rallied to her side. Folks, science can be messy and uncouth and disruptive, but that's part of what makes it so much fun to learn. But nowhere in today's schools will you make and light up hydrogen soap bubbles like Mr. Wizard showed kids how to do all those years ago. Do they even do the vinegar and baking soda thing anymore? On Twitter, numerous scientists responded to this story saying that they blew something up in high school using science. It's almost a rite of passage. Suppose they had been expelled. What would happen to the state of science today? There's also a petition on change.org, which had almost 40,000 signatures as of this writing. Meanwhile, the police say she was in possession of an explosive. Of course, these explosives are in most everyone's home. Hey, I can make powdered non-dairy creamer explode. I can make flour explode. Geez, as we continue to be the country that falls further and further behind in science, we continue to be the country that leads more and more in the most people behind bars. What a legacy. And yet bullying in school still goes largely ignored. Just what is wrong with people? If I were the principal, I would have given her the following punishment. Write 2 essays, one describing in detail what happened chemically inside that bottle and why that reaction happened the way it did, and one describing what safety precautions should be taken when attempting such an experiment. I think that's all that's really needed. Doing anything more, and especially trying her as an adult to put her in prison with violent felons, and we've covered before the psychological damage that can cause, is more than enough to get the Polk County School District and Police named this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! Well, that wraps up this Reach Out and Touch Someone edition of the Bogosity Podcast. Please visit the forums at bogosity.tv, where you can read the show notes and join the discussion on these and other subjects. This podcast is free but not free to produce, so please donate via PayPal or Bitcoin at the top of the Bogosity.tv website or down the right-hand side of the podcast page and give generously to keep this podcast going. And if you'd like to contribute to the podcast, just send a question, statement, news article, or rant to podcast@bogosity.tv. Put it in an audio file, and if it's good enough, it'll get played right in the podcast. Thank you for listening. Until next time, here's a quote from Fulke Greville. Is it the mask or majesty of power to make offences that it may forgive? The Bogosity Podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 3.0 Imported License. Bogosity. Do you want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again.